Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to Slovenia once again, and that of course means that we're going to take a look at yet another beer from the latest instalment of the Davor box. So a massive shout out and thank you once again to Davor Širić, who's a long-term subscriber of the channel. He's responsible for about 90% of the Slovenian beers that you'll see reviewed here, and thanks to him I know that there's some great quality beer down there. But he always puts a few Belgian goodies and things like that in the box as well. He's a huge fan of Belgian beer, just very knowledgeable of beer generally, and I have to say I'm very, very jealous of his cellar that he has. He's resisted my kind of pushes to him to make his own channel for quite a while, but I'm hoping that quite soon we can break him actually and get him to do it. But yeah, at some point in the fairly near future, I'm sure you will see Davor on the channel once again on one of the live streams or something like that, and fingers crossed we can get down to Slovenia in 2021, and I'm sure if we get that done, we'll do a few out and about videos and stuff like this actually. But yeah, Davor's been a great friend to the channel over the years, and I hope that you guys enjoy these Slovenian mini-series that he makes possible. So massive shout out to Davor once again. For this review though, we are going to have a look at a beer from a brewery that hasn't featured on the channel before. So we're going to go to Kamnik once again, which seems to be a little bit of a beer hub almost actually. It's out to the north of Ljubljana. Ljubljana's right in the centre of the country, then Kamnik is, further north towards the Austrian border. But we're going to have a look at my first beer from Maister Pivovarna. So this particular beer is called the Rusjan. It comes in at 6% ABV, and this one is an IPA. So yeah, curious to see how this one turns out. This is one that Davor picked out for me, and like I said, he's very knowledgeable, so I'm sure it will be a pretty good one actually. So yeah, curious to see how this one turns out. It's always nice to introduce new Slovenian beers for you here on the channel and breweries, and so I hope that you guys enjoy this one and that you enjoy the other beers in the Slovenian mini-series that we've got going on. So yeah, curious to see how it turns out, as I always am, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So let's see how we get on. As always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Maister Pivovarna. I've got a feeling that Davor might have sent me another beer from these guys, but I can't remember off the top of my head just now, but I'm sure you'll see more from these guys at some point soon. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for the Slovenian beers that I've reviewed for you so far, and that is being added to quite regularly over the next little while. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Maister Pivovarna then, on to my brewery notes. So Maister Pivovarna, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Kamnik, which is in the northern part of Slovenia, to the north of Ljubljana in the centre, and the brewery was founded by Janez Skok, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. But Janez studied chemistry, and he worked for Helios, which is like it's kind of like a data and sort of oil products company, if I remember rightly. But then he also worked for Lek, doing kind of biopharmaceuticals and things like this as well. He was a leader of a kind of research team there, from what I understand. But after a while of doing these kind of jobs, he realised that he didn't like working for a large corporation, and so he wanted to do something different. So Janez's family own the bar P Maestru in Kamnik, and he took over the management of this place, and he was also involved in the procurement side of the business as well, and it was there that he first encountered craft beer. And at this stage nobody was selling it in Kamnik, so he wanted to be the first one to get that done actually, and that's exactly what he did. But soon after he got the craft beers into the bar, he began brewing his own beer as well, and he had recipes that he thought were ready for commercial release in 2014. The first beers that these guys produced were the Vega Paleo and also the General Meister IPA, which he brewed himself on the small scale in the bar, from what I understand. But he didn't have his own premises or his own equipment, so he decided to go down the route of being a gypsy brewer, and he found a place at Vizia Brewery, which is in Tronomail, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, in 2015. But the gypsy brewing thing was very challenging logistically. Apparently, there was quite a distance there, and the road connection just wasn't very good. So this didn't last for all that long. And he eventually found a place in Kamnik that was suitable for the brewery, right on the banks of the river, and he invested €400,000 in this new facility, and it started production in autumn of 2017. They've continued to scale that up over the years from what I understand. The latest production figure I could find for this brewery was 190,000 litres, and today they're employing around 6 people as well, including 3 brewers, and they also open up the brewery every Thursday apparently to host a small bar. And as of December 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 16 different kinds of beer, and there's quite a variety of different styles in there as well. But that's all I can really tell you about the kind of background of the company, if you like. But there is a bit of an interesting story about the name of this brewery as well. So the brewery takes its name from the famous Slovenian general Rudolf Maister, who was born in Kamnik and lived from 1874 until 1934. Apparently during the First World War, the Maribor City Council proclaimed the annexation of the city to Austria. It was a German-speaking city apparently, but Meister, who had actually served in the Austro-Hungarian army during the First World War, he organised a 4,000 strong Slovenian volunteer force, and they seized control of the German-speaking city on November the 23rd, 1918, and it became part of the short-lived state for Slovenes, Croats and Serbs, and this date, apparently November 23rd, is now a national Slovenian holiday. But Rudolf Meister was also known for his poetry, amongst other things, but he does seem to be, you know, quite a revered hero in Slovenia almost, actually. He's a very, very well-known figure from what I gather. But yeah, as a result of that kind of background, the brewery named most of their beers after different historical Slovenian figures, and this one is named after one of those as well. So yeah, that's your kind of that's your story behind the name of the brewery. You know, Rudolf Meister was local to Kamnik. I think he was actually, if I remember rightly, he was born there, if you like. But yeah, so yeah, quite cool actually that these guys are trying to kind of promote you know, local Slovenian people and things like that, and historical figures and stuff, because, you know, it's a very small country and not many people will know the kind of intricacies of the history of it. Usually small countries like that do have very interesting histories behind them, so yeah. But yeah, as I say, that's all I can really tell you about Maister Pivovarna just now, or Meister Brewery as their anglicised name is. But if you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all those different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this one then. I'm very, very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. So as you can see, the artwork on this one is pretty kind of straightforward. There you can see Rusjan, but the interesting thing about this one is the little plane on the side. So this beer is named after Edvard Rusjan, who was an engineer and an aviation pioneer. He was born in Trieste and he died in a plane crash in Belgrade, which is now Serbia, of course. But yeah, it's named after him. He was quite well known as an engineer and pioneer and stuff like this. So yeah, Edvard Rusjan is where this beer derives its name from. But you can see on the bottle cap of this one, white background with the Meister symbol on it there. I don't know, is that an oak leaf or a maple leaf or something like that? I'm not quite sure. It's definitely not an oak leaf, you know, the oak leaves are round, but there is, that must be like the Slovenian national tree or something like that, or a tree that is, you know, almost native, if you like, to that region in the north of Slovenia. But yeah, nicely presented beer, this one. As I mentioned to you at the start of the video, this one is a 6% IPA, 330ml bottle, this one, and there you can see the brewer's name on the bottom there actually. So yeah, pretty cool. But without further ado, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. As I say, always nice to introduce new Slovenian beers and breweries for you here on the channel. So let's do it. Yeah, a little bit of smoke on the opening and we'll put the bottle cap into my collection. But yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. I will say straight away, I have no idea what kind of IPA this one is going to be, so that's something that we will be assessing as we go through the tasting of the beer. But just going from its appearance, it looks like it could either be one of two things. It might be either a West Coaster, or an American West Coaster, or an English IPA. Yeah, it could even just be like one of these styles with Slovenian hops or whatever in it. Although from what I understand, he has Janis Skok really likes the Aurora hops, so yeah. But they do have a kind of separate brewing team now, if you like. But yeah, this one I think does look pretty nice. You can see when it was sitting in the bottle, it was, you know, pretty clear actually, but it has hazed up a little bit since we've poured it. If we shine the light through this beer, it does have a nice kind of rich orangey amber colour to it. You can see there's about a half finger of a frothy kind of cream coloured head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, but I mean overall it does look pretty nice. And you can see if I put my fingers behind the glass, there is a degree of natural haze to this one. It's almost a little touch murky, but it's nowhere near the same level that you're going to get from some of these, you know, crazy New England IPAs that are floating around these days. But yeah, it certainly looks the part of a nice kind of craft beer, if you like. So yeah, I think this one should be really quite nice. Nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider that it is an IPA. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this one then and just see how we go. So, well, not a taste, a smell of it. My brain's not working in this one. This is the problem when I film these reviews. When I'm tired, my brain is all over the place. But yeah, let's have a closer look at the aroma of this one and see how we get on. Ooh, right, that is quite nice actually. It's got a wee bit of a kind of noble-y character to it, which is kind of what you'd expect. I mean, if there are some Slovenian hops in this, you know, they do have a little bit of that almost German-like noble quality to them, the Styrian Goldings and Auroras and stuff like this. But yeah, it comes across as a kind of mixture of American and English, if you like, in terms of its malty base. So straight away with this one, you can smell a nice little bit of a kind of brown bready, kind of brown wholemealy bread quality, just kind of forming the backbone of this beer. You do get a little bit of a sweet caramel out of it. There's definitely some of that kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing in there as well. So yeah, there's a wee touch of a kind of woodiness in the beer as well actually, but it comes across as quite grainy and almost rye-like. There's almost like a little bit of rye coming out of this one, but it just says barley malt in the English thing there. But yeah, yeah, that's interesting. I have to say that is interesting, this one. It does have almost a wee bit of kind of rye note coming out of it, for sure. It could be the yeast that's doing that right enough. But yeah, as I say, kind of wholemealy brown bready sort of thing in the base. You've got a nice little bit of a sweet caramel in there, some kind of McVitie's digestive sort of biscuity notes, one or two little woody elements to it as well, and a little bit of a kind of more bread crusty type quality coming out of the beer too. So yeah, I like how this one, I do like how this one goes together from the aroma side of things. On the malty side, as you know if you've watched the channel before, I love a good bit of maltiness to my beer. But yeah, let's focus on the hoppy side of the beer now as well. I think we've said all we really need to about the malt base. So there is a little bit of English graininess to it, but otherwise it comes across as more like a sort of American pale ale in some ways. There's a little bit of an almost American pale ale type element to it rather than a straight up caramelly IPA. There's a wee bit of crispness to it in this one, to be honest. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things, wee touch of earthiness, definitely a little touch of earthiness coming out of this one. There's a wee bit of a herbal quality as well, some nice floral aromatics in there. And you've also got a little bit of a lighter kind of grassy quality to this one too. Overall, I would say that the green component of this beer, I would say that it leans towards that kind of grassy, floral element, to be honest with you. So that's an interesting point to make about this one for sure. Definitely a nice kind of grassy floral element to this beer, definitely, yeah, 100%. But yeah, the aroma profile of this one I think is really pretty nice actually. It's well balanced. It does come across more and more English actually, the more that I smell it actually, to be honest. But yeah, on the fruity side of things then, what are we going to say about this? So for me, there's a wee touch of a kind of, there is a wee touch of a slightly stronger kind of grapefruity note to it, maybe a little bit of an almost kind of figgy note. Could there be a wee bit of Cascade or something in here? There's a few perry esters as well, a little bit of an almost gooseberry type thing, maybe a wee touch of lime, something like that. So yeah, pear, lime, gooseberry, and a wee bit of an almost Cascadey sort of grapefruit kind of figgy type note out of this one. So it's really interesting, I have to say. It is pretty interesting how that how the aroma of this one goes together. Not sure exactly what to make of this one, but I think we will learn a lot of it, a lot about it when we actually have a taste of it then. But yeah, nice kind of more grassy leaning hoppy notes, but a wee bit earthy and herbal as well, and then some nice juicy kind of fruity qualities in it as well. Pears, a little bit of, you know, a little bit of a kind of gooseberry limey kind of note, and some kind of like grapefruity figgy qualities as well. So quite an interesting one for sure, this one, I would definitely say that. But yeah, let's have a taste of this beer then and see how we go. And this one is the Rusjan 6% IPA, named after the aviator and engineer Edvard Rusjan from Maister Pivovarna in Kamnik in the northern part of Slovenia. Once again, a huge thank you to Davor Šireč for making this review possible. So let's get stuck into this one. Slanja, skål, na zdravje. Ooh, now that is interesting. One of the things I'll say, and this is a kind of trait I've noticed about the Slovenian beers that I've had so far, they do like their beer to be, quite, at the same time have a nice smooth breadiness to it, but also to be quite oily on top of that. I have noticed that with quite a few Slovenian IPAs, and that one, you get that straight away out of this one as well. I wonder where that kind of trait comes from, actually, because you do notice this when you've reviewed beers from all over the place. You do start to notice trends between certain countries and things, like quite often there's mouthfeel characteristics that are quite similar and things. So yeah. But yeah, we'll focus on the mouthfeel a little bit later in this one. But yeah, I think this is a pretty solid IPA in my mind. It's got a little bit of both English quality to it and the more American-y note. So yeah, it's got a wee bit of an almost English breadiness to it, but then it's got the more American sweet side of the malts, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'm going to say straight away, I like this one. I will need to try maybe one of their lagers and something from the darker end of the spectrum. I'll need to talk to Davor about that for the next box, actually. But yeah, this one I think is pretty damn solid. But I'm not surprised, as I've said, the Slovenian beers have good quality these days. But yeah, so let's just break down the flavour of this one then and see where we go. Straight away across the middle of your palate then, you do get a nice kind of soft, brown bready, wholemealy bread sort of thing. And as you go towards the back third of your palate, you definitely get more of a kind of toasty, grainy element to this one. It's definitely got a bit more of a kind of dryness on that back third of your palate there. And I really like how that comes out of this one. So yeah, definitely a bit more kind of dry and grainy and almost rye-like. As I say, there's something in my head that says rye about this beer, to be honest. But yeah, you do get a little bit of that out of the on the back third of your palate there. But as you move, I say the back third of your palate feels a little bit thicker as well, but at the same time it's almost a little touch crisper. So thicker in a way, but then crisper in some ways as well, actually. It's an interesting kind of quirk about this beer. But yeah, as you move further forward on this one, as you go into the middle, the middle third of your palate, actually, you can feel the breadiness kind of smoothens out a little bit, and the sort of wholemealy, grainy, bready thing gets a bit softer. A little bit of a sweet caramel in there. The sweet caramel actually takes up a fair bit of area in that middle part of your palate, and then as you move further out from this one, it does get a wee bit more kind of McVitie's digestive biscuit-like almost. It does have a wee bit more of that kind of biscuity sweetness to it, and you can feel that the middle part of your palate just dries out and becomes a wee bit more grainy the further that you go into the aftertaste of it as well, actually. So it's interesting how that builds together, actually. I like how everything kind of couples together in this one, so yeah. Yeah, that is nice. This one for sure. The malt base in this one, this beer really kind of mellows out very nicely. The graininess, I think, the harshness of the grains, once you're, I suppose it's not fair to call it harsh, to be honest with you. The sort of more bitey components of the grains, I guess you could say, they sort of kind of settle down a wee bit the more that you drink of this beer, and then the smoothness in the middle third of your palate really starts to take over. So big oily characteristics in the middle part of your tongue, a little bit more kind of biscuity, as I say, as you move out towards the sides of the palate. And there's one or two little woody undertones to the beer. If you go to the front corners of your palate, then diagonally back, there's one or two little woody undertones in the beer. But like I say, this beer, it does have an element of an English kind of graininess to it, almost like an English bitter in some ways, but then you've got some of the smoothness of like German malts. I've got a feeling there's a bit of German malt in this beer, sitting on top of that. and you do get just a wee bit of the American kind of, pardon me, sweetness out of this one. Could be a little bit of Cara Munich or something that's in this, come to think of it. But yeah, the malt base in this one is really nicely done. So in terms of the hoppy side of the beer then, back corners of the palate, you do have a little bit of earthiness to this one, for sure. As you move further forward along the sides of the palate there, it does get a little bit herbal, but I'd say that very quickly after that it does make the transition to be more floral and aromatic. There's a bit of spiciness to it, but not overly much. It's more of a kind of noble type spice, to be honest with you, like a, you know, kind of like you get from the Czech Žatec or something like that. It is more of that kind of spice you get out of this one, rather than the big American spice that you're going to get from Columbus or something like that. But yeah, it's got just a nice little bit of aromaticity there, and that kind of resonates into the aftertaste of this beer. But yeah, round the very front curve of the tongue, the beer is a little bit lighter and grassy, and I think that suits it quite nicely. But yeah, I think the biggest component of the green side of this beer has to be the floral aromaticity rather than anything. It leans towards that floral component. But yeah, I do like how this goes together in that sense. But yeah, it is pretty damn nicely done on the hoppy side of things too. It complements the malty base quite well. The slight earthiness that the beer has and the floral aromaticity complement the more grainy aspects of the malt base. But yeah, let's focus on the fruity side of the beer then. So as I always say to you, on that front third of your palate, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. If you go towards the back of it, you get a wee touch of a grapefruit quality there, but then as you move further forward, it does just get a little bit kind of lighter and more juicy and fruity as you kind of can pick up in the aroma. But yeah, a little bit of a kind of grapefruity note there, and as I say, as you move further forward from that, you start to get, this beer almost feels quite orangey. Could it be Mandarina Bavaria that's in this, or a bit of Amarillo? Could be, really could be. But yeah, as you move further forward from that, you do get a wee touch of, like, you know, a sort of oily apricot, kind of dried fruity kind of thing. There is a wee bit of that in this beer, but then as you reach the front half of that front third of your tongue, it's definitely more oily and more kind of big and orangey. I want to say Amarillo, or it's got a little bit of Mandarina Bavaria in there. So yeah, it is interesting, this one actually. The fruity notes on this are quite nice. You do get a few kind of peary esters towards the front of the palate as well, a little bit of an apple-y sort of thing, and there is a wee bit of a citrusy zest on that kind of front tip of your tongue too. So I do like how that pieces together in this one. That is the fruity side of this beer, I think, is nice and oily, and it just has a really lovely component to it. So it does get a big thumbs up from me in that sense actually. So yeah, awesome stuff. I have to say it's a bit of an old school IPA, this one. It does strike me as being a little bit more of a kind of old school type IPA, but that's nice. It is nice to have something like this. There's so many breweries doing these, you know, New England hazy IPAs these days. It's nice to have something like this that is a little bit more kind of like West Coasty almost, or a little bit more kind of hybridy. But yeah, I would say that this beer, it probably is more, it's maybe about, you know, 70%, 80% American West Coast, and then about 20%, about 20%, you know, English, just with the malt base, to be honest with you. But I think it's a really nicely done beer, and it gets a thumbs up from me. I like the kind of orangey components that this one has. I would say the fruits are a little bit different in this one compared to what the aroma gives you, but this beer is one that fits the aroma fairly well otherwise. So yeah, I like that about this one for sure. Thumbs up to Maister Pivovarna, and I think I do have another beer from these guys in the fridge. I can't remember what it is though, but yeah, you will see that reviewed at a later date. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, to round off the review, yeah, so this beer, straight away, it's got, I'd describe it as being probably top end and mid-bodied. The carbonation's quite smooth in this one. It's got a bit of oily character to it and a little bit of slickness almost as well, so I do like that about this one. You get a nice hoppy bitterness out of the beer. I think this one's got to be about, you know, maybe 50 or 60 IBUs. It does have just a little bit of bite to it, but it's not going to blow the head off you in terms of its bitterness. Yeah, 50 or 60 IBUs. somewhere in that kind of region. The malt base, like I say, has a bit more of a graininess to it, but it smoothens out the more that you drink of it, and you get that sweeter, more oily, caramelly component coming out a bit later on. And the fruits are, once again, as you can expect from quite a few Slovenian IPAs, have that kind of oily component to them, but a bit of juiciness that just lingers there as well. But yeah, this beer gets a big thumbs up from me. I like this one. I would be curious to try it on tap at their bar, so I think if we do, I might need to convince Davor to take us on a drive up to Kamnik when we go to Slovenia and film both at Maligrad and at the bar for the Maister pub as well. So that's something that we'll need to do. But that'd be cool to film two, to film two sets of interviews up there. That would be great, actually. So we'll see about arranging that. As I say, when we do make it down to Slovenia, we will see about doing some kind of meet the brewery interviews and stuff like that. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Maister Pivovarna for the moment, and this particular beer. I think that's a nice way to kind of round off this this review, to be honest with you. This is it's quite similar to other IPAs that I've had from Slovenia in the past, and that's how I like them. It's a bit more of a kind of oily and sort of orangey leaning IPA, this one. So but yeah, but 20-30% English with the kind of malty base, but then the rest of it is all kind of West Coast American. But yeah, lovely beer, this one. I would recommend you try this out, and I look forward to trying more from these guys in the fairly near future. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one then. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Maister Pivovarna. I'm sure we will return to these guys at some point soon, but in the meantime, check out my social media. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys later. The Rusjan IPA at 6% ABV from Maister Pivovarna in Kamnik in the northern part of Slovenia. Slanje, Skull, cheers, Nostravia, and a huge thank you to Davor Šireць once again. Cheers.